Good afternoon. All right, let's begin. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Senator Brooks. Senator Buck. Senator Canizaro. Senator Dennis. Senator Doñate. Senator Dondero-Loop. Senator Gocochea. Senator Hammond. Senator Hansen. Senator Hardy. Senator Harris. Senator Kekeffer. Senator Lang. Senator Neal. Senator Orenshaw. Senator Pickard.
Here.
Senator Ratty. Senator Scheibel. Senator Sievers-Ganser. Senator Settlemeyer. Senator Spearman.
Thank you. Let the record reflect there are 21 senators present. Please rise for the prayer and invocation by our very own Senator Dina Neal.
Okay. Dear Father God, I ask for your blessings and your grace today on this deadline day, and that you bring peace to everyone in this building that surpasses all understanding, and that you reduce the level of conflict that is on the rise in the building today, and that you move in your Holy Spirit and grace to bless us, our families who are waiting for us to get out of this building and go home, and that you actually deliver us from all of our anxiety and our interest into getting into issues that probably are not to the benefit of your will, Lord God, and that you just bless the staff and the assembly, and that we have a great and wonderful day. Thank you.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Lord Almighty. All right. Order business number 3, reading and approval of the journal. By previous order of the Senate, the reading of the journal is dispensed with, and the President and Secretary are authorized to make the necessary corrections and additions. Order business number 4, reports of committee.
Madam President, Committee on Finance, to which were referred Senate Bills numbers 27, 69, 76, 147, 211, 287, 297, has had the same under consideration. Big Sleep report sending back the recommendation amended to pass as amended. Signed Senator Chris Brooks, Chair. Madam President, Committee on Government Affairs, to which was referred as Senate Bill number 445, has the same under consideration. Big Sleep report sending back the recommendation amended to pass as amended. Signed Senator Marilyn Dondero-Loop, Chair. Madam President, Committee on Health and Human Services, to which was referred Senate Bill number 390, has had the same under consideration. Big Sleep report the same back with recommendation amended to pass as amended. Signed Senator Julia Ratty, Chair. End of report.
Thank you. Order business number 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, May 20th, 2021. To the Honorable Senate, I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body the Assembly on this day passed and passed as amended a multitude of Senate bills and Assembly bills that are noted on your agenda, as well as the honor to inform your Honorable Body the Assembly has passed as amended Senate Bill number 6, 7, 21, 45, 50, 54, 58, and respectfully request your honorable body to concur in said amendments. Signed, Carol Ayala Sala, Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages. Oops, one more. Sorry.
Yeah.
And adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution number 12. Signed, Carol Ayala Sala, Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Thank you. Order business number 9, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Assembly Joint Resolution number 3, introduced by Assemblyman Gonzalez, etc., and Senator Doñate, urges various actions relating to protection and conservation of land and water. End of resolution.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the joint resolution?
There are none. End of resolution.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Doñate.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Joint Resolution 3 urges President Joseph R. Biden Jr. and the Congress of the United States to support a long-term goal of protecting 50% of the planet, I think there was a typo, 30% of the planet, inland waters, and oceans, and urges state and local agencies in Nevada to work cooperatively with the federal agencies and tribal governments to protect 30% of the lands and waters in the state by 2030.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in, well, I used to rise, I'm sitting, but rise in strong opposition to this. The very concept in it that we're facing ecosystem collapse and global warming And the idea in Section 2 that the state has lost more than 9 million acres of wildlife habitat, it's just wrong. You know, I was thinking about this. We have entire generations of young people. Okay, I'm 60 years old. There are people in this room that are half my age or less. We live in the best time in the world's history. Any reasonable thing you look at, food, shelter, clothing, energy, transportation, medicine, communications, health, longevity, infant mortality, poverty, wealth, we live in the greatest time in the history of the planet. Better than the Romans and the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Chinese. Yet we have all these young people who frankly think in the next 10 years that all this is going to come to a crashing halt. And that's the fundamental basis of this resolution. And it's perpetuating a fear that is frankly wrong. I've been watching this issue for decades. You know, I got a book right here in my hand. 30 million copies of this sold in 1968. The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich, a scientist from Stanford, no less. Here was his prediction, 1968. The battle to feed all of humanity is over. In the 1970s, the world will undergo famines. Hundreds of millions of people are going to starve to death in spite of any crash programs we're doing now. Ecosystem collapse is what they've been talking about forever. And guess what? It never happened. Everybody in this room who's old enough to remember the 70s, remember that we didn't have any famine. In fact, we all got overweight. The whole world is doing better. There are 7 million people on the planet now, and yet they're still preaching this economic ecosystem collapse nonsense. I just thought I wanted to give you a real quick rundown, and pardon me for being a little long on this, but I just wanted to think just in the last 50 years, they predicted mass starvation, global cooling, acid rain, nuclear winter, mercury in fish, peak oil running out by 2000, running out of common metals, rainforest disappearing, pesticide poisoning, and recently, wildfires, polar bears, hurricanes, fracking, acidity of the oceans, disappearance of the coral reefs, droughts, glaciers melting, hurricanes, melting ice caps, tornadoes, desertification, rising sea levels. I mean, and guess what? In every single one of those I just mentioned, they've been not only wrong, but horribly wrong. I've got in my hand An Inconvenient Truth by former Vice President Al Gore. And you can read it. This is only 14 years old. Every single prediction in it has been wrong. So for all the young people out there and the young senators here, I would urge you to step back and look at the long-term success of these procrastinators of doom, frankly. They're these apocalyptic things that we're all going to die, and that's what this is based on. By 2050, if we don't pass and save 50% of the world's planet, we're all going to die, apparently. And they've been wrong every single time consistently on my entire lifetime. So, pardon me for taking more time than you guys want, I understand. This is a huge issue, though. We are talking about spending hundreds of billions of dollars doing these kinds of things, and they're based on fraudulent claims that don't pan out. So, pardon my long-windedness. This is a sensitive issue because it actually deals with frightening people half to death, even though we're living in the greatest times in the history of mankind, into thinking that they're part of some apocalyptic doom that's going to happen if they drive their cars, or they run their heaters, or they do any of the things that use or consume energy. Thank you, Madam President. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Senator Danyate.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to clarify for the record. Really quick. I misread this. It's to support a long-term goal of protecting 50% of the planet inland waters and oceans, and then the other part is to protect 30% of the lands and waters in the state by 2030. Just want to make sure that the record reflects that.
Thank you. All right, then. Further remarks? Okay. Hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Joint Resolution Number 3?
No.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? No? All right. Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Joint Resolution 3 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The the joint resolution having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to take Assembly Bill 143 from its place on general file and place it on general file for the last agenda for today.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And that concludes order of business number 9.
Thank you. Order of business number 10, referral. Let's see. We're on introduction, first reading, and reference referral of Assembly bills.
Assembly Bill Number 116 by Assemblywoman Wynn, et cetera, Senators Cannizzaro, et cetera, revises provisions relating to traffic offenses referred to judiciary. Assembly Bill 358 by Assemblyman Frierson enacts provisions to improve access to Medicaid for persons released from incarceration, referred to Health and Human Services. Assembly Bill 365 by Assemblywoman Peters, et cetera, revises the provisions relating to governmental administration, referred to legislative operations and elections. Assembly Bill 393 by Assembly Committee on Judiciary makes various changes relating to criminal justice, referred to judiciary. End of Assembly bills.
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
Sorry, President. I move that the Assembly bills be referred to the committees as read.
Thank you. Senator Ratty has referred Assembly Bills 116, 358, 365, and 393 as read to the committees as read. Are there any objections to the referral? If not, so ordered.
And that concludes order of business number 10.
Thank you. Order of business number 13, third reading, general file.
Assembly Bill Number 45, introduced by Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor, revises provisions relating to insurance. People, State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 87, subsection 4, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Settlemeyer.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 45 makes various changes relating to insurance. Among other things, the measure revises provisions relating to bonds filed with various persons regulated by the Commissioner of Insurance, revises provisions governing the service of process on certain insurers, revises provisions governing the issuance, renewal, and expiration of various licenses, permits, certificates, and other authorizations to engage in activity relating to insurance, provides specific requirements for certain stop-loss insurance policies and the insurers who insure them, revises certain requirements governing holdings companies and reinsurers of reinsurance, expands a list of statutory provisions to which certain healthcare-related entities and risk retention groups are expressly made subject to, and revises provisions governing the annual disclosures by certain persons regulated by the Commissioner of Insurance. In addition, the bill revises certain fiscal requirements that apply to an association of self-insured private employers. The bill is effective on July 1st, 2021 for requirements related to the renewal, expiration, and reinstatement of producers of insurance license, and on October 1st, 2021 for all other purposes. The provisions regarding associations of self-insured private employers are effective upon passage and approval and expire by limitation on July 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill Number 45?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 45 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill Number 139, introduced by Senator Yeager and Gordlow and Senator Scheibel, revises provisions relating to local governments. People, State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 5, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Neal.
Thank you, President. Assembly Bill 139 authorizes the governing body of a county or city to transfer money from an enterprise fund to pay for the capital cost of constructing one or more fire stations if the transfer does not cause the balance of the unreserved working capital in the enterprise fund to be less than 50% of the annual operating costs and the capital expenditures for the program for the issuance of the barricade permits, encroachment permits, and building permits, and the governing body finds that the construction of the fire station is necessary based on an analysis of the need for infrastructure prepared between January 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2021. The bill is effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 139?
Yes.
All right. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? Just a minute. All right. All right. Looks like everyone's voted. It looks like no one wishes to change his or her vote. The secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 139 is 15 in favor, 6 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order the assembly.
Assembly Bill number 237, introduced by Assemblywoman Howdy, revises various provisions relating to real property. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 17, subsection 3, end of bill.
Thank you. Senator Hansen.
Madam President, I thought I used up my quota, but I can go ahead and read this. Is that all right? I will. Assembly Bill 237 revises various provisions concerning common interest communities. Provisions governing the creation, alteration, and termination of common interest communities are expanded to include all common interest communities, including those created before January 1st, 1992, and non-residential condominiums of non-residential planned communities. The bill also revises certain fees that a unit owners association may charge, authorizes the increase in certain fees on an annual basis in accordance with the Consumer Price Index, but no more than 3% a year, prohibits an association from imposing or charging certain fees other than or in excess of those that the association is expressly authorized or required by statute to impose or charge, establishes a procedure for the Real Estate Division of the Department of Business and Industry to investigate complaints alleging violations of the fee provisions, provides that a public offering statement and the entire resale package do not need to be prepared or delivered in certain dispositions of a unit, revises the notification requirements in the case of a foreclosure sale, requires a court to the extent necessary to grant appropriate leave to ascertain the state of the title to the property to be partitioned pursuant to the report of a title company, removes obsolete provisions regarding certain mortgages of personal property or crops from the provisions of law relating to the recording of assignments of mortgages and the subordination or waiver of priority of mortgages and other interests in real property, and makes other technical changes. Bill is effective January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 237?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 237 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order the assembly.
Assembly Bill number 251, introduced by Assemblywoman Krasner, et cetera, and Senators Hardy, et cetera, makes various changes relating to records concerning children. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 10, this act becomes effective December 31st, 2021, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 251 establishes provisions relating to the expungement of certain records relating to children. A child 18 years of age or older may petition the juvenile court for an order expunging all records relating to certain offenses. If the juvenile court enters an order expunging the records, all proceedings recounted in the records are deemed never to have occurred, and a probation officer, probation department, or a law enforcement agency must destroy such records held in their custody. The juvenile court must notify the district attorney and the chief probation officer or the chief of youth parole bureau, of the Division of Child and Family Services in the Department of Health and Human Services if a petition is filed. In addition, certain persons who have evidence that is relevant to the consideration of the petition may testify at the hearing. Lastly, this bill requires that certain records be automatically sealed within 60 days after the date the child reaches 18 years of age rather than at 21 years of age, and this bill is effective on December 31st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 251?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 251 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 253, introduced by Assemblywoman Considine, revises provisions relating to governmental administration. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 7, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 533 makes various changes to the open meeting law, including but not limited to authorizing, under certain circumstances, a public body to conduct a meeting using remote technology system and requiring the notice of a public meeting that uses a remote technology system to include information about how a member of the public may hear, observe, participate in, and provide public comment at the meeting through the remote technology system, requiring that a public body that holds a meeting using remote technology system does not have a physical location for the meeting. It must have an internet website and post on the internet website the notice of the meeting and any supporting material for the meeting. Prohibiting a public body whose members are all required to be elected officials from holding a meeting using a remote technology system unless a physical location where the members of the public may attend and participate is designated, and revising, noticing, and posting requirements available to certain state agencies that intend to act upon regulations. Effective date upon passage and approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Settlemyre.
Thank you, Madam President. In my interpretation of reading this bill, I'm concerned because I think it basically narrows the application of the open meeting law. In that respect, makes it weak and makes less transparent. In that respect, I oppose it. I understand my colleague from Senate District 14 actually supported it in committee, and I understand that. However, I'm going to go with Representative Hansen on the other side, who voted against it.
All right. Further remarks. All right. Hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 253?
Yes.
All right. Looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right. The Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 253 is 18 in favor, 3 against. Bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 254, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson, etc., revises provisions governing collegiate athletics. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 9, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 254 prohibits public or private post-secondary institutions or the National Collegiate Athletic Association from, 1, preventing a student athlete from being compensated for the use of student's name, image, or likeness, or from obtaining professional services with certain exceptions. 2, compensating the student athlete for those components which related to the official activities of the institution or the NCAA. 3, altering a student's scholarship award due to such compensation. And 4, disallowing the student's participation in intercollegiate sports for such compensation or use of services. The bill also prohibits the NCAA from preventing the institution itself from participating in the NCAA for that same reason. Additionally, the bill authorizes a student athlete to enter into a contract with an outside entity for compensation so long as the contract does not conflict with the contract between the student athlete and the institution in which the athlete is enrolled, and the student athlete must meet certain specified responsibilities. Finally, the bill requires the Legislative Committee on Education to appoint a committee to conduct an interim study concerning collegiate bylaws and state and federal laws related to compensating student athletes for the use of their name, images, or likeness.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right. Hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All
Senator
right.
Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 254?
Yes.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 254?
Yes.
All right. Looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 254 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 258, introduced by Assemblywoman Bill Bray Axelrod, revises provisions governing consolidated library districts. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do not as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 3 of this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 258 requires the trustees of a consolidated library district to appoint an executive director consistent with the statutorily prescribed duties of the trustees of the consolidated library district. For the consolidated library district that serves a population of more than 1 million people, currently the Las Vegas Clark County Library District, the bill requires that the trustees to, number one, establish the educational qualifications of the executive director, which may include, without limitation, holding a master's degree in library and informational science, and two, appoint and evaluate the performance of, and if necessary, dismiss an internal auditor. Effective date is July 1, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 258?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 258 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 261, introduced by Assemblywoman Anderson, etc., Senator Harris, revises provisions governing education to provide diversity and inclusivity in the academic standards and curriculum. The people of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 4, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Danyate.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 261 requires the Board of Trustees of a school district or the governing body of a charter school to ensure that instruction is provided to pupils enrolled in grades K through 12 on the history and contributions to science, the arts, and humanities of certain groups of persons. Additionally, this bill requires the instruction to be included in the standards of content for performance established by the Council to establish academic standards for public schools, age-appropriate, and included in one or more courses of study for which the Council has established relevant standards of content and in performance. Finally, the bill prohibits the State Board of Education from selecting instructional materials, including without limitation a textbook, for use in public schools unless the instructional materials accurately portray the history and contributions to science, the arts, and humanities of specified groups of persons.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 261?
No.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 261 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 277, introduced by Assemblyman Durant, etc., revises provisions governing insurance. People of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 4, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Settlemeyer.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 277 revises revisions relating to the exchange of medical and insurance information by certain persons involved in a personal injury claim under a motor vehicle insurance policy. The bill authorizes the claimant or the claimant's attorney to provide a written authorization to allow the party against whom a claim is asserted for personal injury under a motor vehicle insurance policy or the party's attorney and the party's insurer to receive all reports, records, films, bills from the claimant's healthcare provider. The bill also requires an insurer in receipt of such an authorization to disclose within 5 business days a copy of the declarations page of the policy with certain redactions to the claimant or the claimant's attorney. The effective date of the bill is October 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 277?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 277 is 19 in favor, 2 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 278, introduced by Assemblywoman Duran, provides for the collection of certain information from physicians. The people of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 5, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. All right, the secretary will open.
Okay.
Senator Hardy.
Thank you for your patience,
Oh, okay.
Madam President. Assembly Bill 278 requires the Department of Health and Human Services to develop and make available to the Board of Medical Examiners and the State Board of Osteopathic Medicine a data request to be administered to applicants for the renewal of a license or biennial registration. The data request must solicit certain information about the practice of the applicant. Applicants must respond to this request, but are not subject to disciplinary action by the board for refusal or failure to complete it. The department must collect and maintain the confidential information received from the applicants and prepare an annual report relating to the data thereof, effective October 1st.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill 278?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 278 is 20 in favor, 1 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 284, introduced by Assemblywoman Martinez, revises provisions relating to statutory liens on motor vehicles. People of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 5, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 284 establishes a procedure to contest the validity of certain liens on motor vehicles and for the return of a vehicle if a justice of the peace finds a lien invalid. After receiving notice of opposition to a lien, the Department of Motor Vehicles is prohibited from transferring the vehicle's title until the matter has been adjudicated. A lien on a motor vehicle expires 6 months after it is filed with the DMV unless that period is tolled pending active litigation or a hearing conducted by the DMV. The provisions of this bill do not affect the rights of a secured party pursuant to statute and do not apply to a lien asserted by a tow car operator holding a certificate of public convenience and necessity. Bill is effective July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 284?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 284 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 286, introduced by Assemblywoman Haddocky, prohibits certain acts relating to firearms. People of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 10, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 286 places restrictions on the manufacture, possession, purchase, transfer, transportation, or sale of firearms and unfinished frames or receivers that have not been imprinted with the serial number in accordance with federal law and provides penalties for violating those restrictions. Exceptions are provided for firearms manufactured prior to 1969, as well as for importers, manufacturers, and law enforcement agencies, and for certain firearms that have been rendered inoperable or are antiques, collector's items, curios, or relics. Nothing in the bill is to be deemed to prohibit the sale of an unfinished frame, receiver, or firearm that is not imprinted with the serial number to a federally licensed importer, manufacturer, or dealer before January 1st, 2022. Provisions prohibiting a person from possessing, selling, offering to sell, transferring, purchasing, transporting, or receiving a firearm that is not imprinted with a serial number issued in accordance with federal law are effective on January 1st, 2022. All other provisions of the bill are effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I am in opposition to Assembly Bill 286. This is the so-called ghost gun bill. During the hearing, I requested data on how many crimes are actually committed or have been committed in Nevada with this type of a weapon. Haven't got that to this date. After talking to law enforcement, apparently it's almost non-existent. Testimony also in committee recognized that approximately 90% of the people that have been convicted of gun crimes got those guns on the black market. There's an extensive black market that exists. So the idea that serial numbers somehow help reduce crime just doesn't add up. Most of us are familiar with the term felon in possession of a firearm because about every time they arrest a felon in Nevada, it seems like that's part of the charge. And that gives you an idea of how common firearms are that are not being bought through regular dealers. It's also possible to simply grind off a serial number if for some reason the criminal wanted to do that. It's interesting, too, that there's been a surge in gun sales in the United States in the last few years, disproportionately being purchased by women, people of color, and the LGBT community, especially in areas where the police protections have been compromised. So we're actually, and these are inexpensive compared to a standard handgun, it's about $500. These kits can go around $300. So for people that are financially limited means, this is an opportunity for them to be able to do some level of self-protection. And last but not least, in the absence of any significant evidence that these are actually being used in crimes, we should err on the side of caution. This is a Second Amendment issue that is an individual liberty, a right that we have in our Bill of Rights. And therefore, in the absence of any evidence of criminal activity using these, I would urge my colleagues to vote no on Assembly Bill 286. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. I think we have all as a society agreed that no one should be able to own a gun without a background check. And this bill brings us a bit closer to that ideal. End of statement.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 286?
No.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 286 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 287, introduced by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, etc., revises provisions relating to childbirth. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
Amendment number 729, proposed by Senator Ratty.
Thank you. Senator Spearman. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Ratty.
I move to adopt Amendment 729 to Assembly Bill 287.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Ratty.
Thank you. This amendment revises the provisions regarding who can serve as the director of a freestanding birthing center.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Bill, ready for final action.
Assembly Bill number 287, introduced by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, etc., revises provisions relating to childbirth. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 through Section 37, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Any remarks? Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 287 replaces the term obstetric center with the term freestanding birth center, thereby requiring each center to meet certain requirements currently applicable to obstetric centers. Freestanding birth centers, which must be licensed as and comply with provisions governing medical facilities, provide maternity care and birthing services in a location similar to the residence. These centers must be located within 30 miles of a hospital that provides service related to pregnancy and newborn infants, may not provide surgery, and must have a director who possesses certain qualifications. In addition, the bill replaces the term mother and similar terms with reference to a person who is pregnant, a person giving birth, or a person who has given birth as appropriate for purposes of relating to vital statistics, maternal and child health and medical facilities and related entities. Finally, AB 287 authorizes the Maternal Mortality Review Committee to access information contained in the state's reporting system for cancer and other neoplasms. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting any regulations and performing any other necessary preparatory administrative task, and on January 1, 2022, for all other purposes.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 287?
No.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 287 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 290, introduced by Assemblywoman Hadid, revises provisions relating to financial institutions. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 10, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 290 revises the definition of a fiduciary to provide that a trust company or a savings bank that acts as a custodian for an individual retirement account is not a fiduciary for the purposes of certain provisions of law governing the business of a trust company. The bill also applies to savings banks certain rules relating to bank deposits and required collateralization of fiduciary funds that are applicable to a bank charter, other savings banks. Further, the bill requires any trust company or savings bank that assumes from any affiliate of the trust company, a savings bank, the role of custodian for any individual retirement accounts, to provide each IRA account holder notice of the assumption of that role of custodian of the account. The bill is effective on October 1, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 290?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 290 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 296, introduced by Assemblywoman Wynne, establishes civil cause of action for the dissemination of personal identifying information or sensitive information under certain circumstances. People of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Assembly Bill 296 establishes a civil cause of action against a person who disseminates personal identifying information or sensitive information of another person without the consent of that person, knowing that the person could be identified. The act of disseminating such information is commonly referred to as doxing. A person is found liable for doxing if the dissemination of information would cause a reasonable person to fear the death, bodily injury, or stalking of himself or herself or a close relation, or causes the death, bodily injury, stalking, or mental anguish of the person whose information was disseminated or a close relation to that person. If the person is found liable, the person whose information was disseminated may recover damages, reasonable attorney's fees, and costs under certain circumstances. A court may also issue a temporary restraining order or a permanent or temporary injunction to prevent the dissemination of any personal identifying information or sensitive information of that person. Lastly, the measure clarifies that these provisions do not apply to the dissemination of such information under certain circumstances, including good faith communications in furtherance of the right to protest or the right to free speech in connection with an issue of public concern.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Settlemyre.
Thank you, Madam President. One of the issues that came up during the bill was the discussion that under this doxing, it seemed to actually exempt out law enforcement and basically allow that to occur to them for them to be harassed. But in that respect, I was wondering if I could be allowed to phone a friend by talking to somebody from Senate District 20 that's on the phone.
Madam Chair.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Senator Pickard, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my colleague from Douglas County. As I read Section 1, Sub 3B, while it doesn't necessarily expressly authorize the doxing of or the publishing of personal identifying or sensitive information about law enforcement or public officials by exempting them from the bill, I believe it impliedly does so. Though reasonable legal minds may disagree, I think it's important to avoid the kind of things that we saw from the emotional testimony of Heather Korbulik, who at the time she testified wouldn't have been protected by the bill. We had to amend it to make sure that that occurred, but I don't think that amendment because this does impliedly authorize the doxing of personal publication of personal information of law enforcement and elected officials for the purposes of harassment. I'm going to be a no on this. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. I read this bill several times, and when I looked at section 1A, I think it's A1, with the intent to aid, assist, encourage, facilitate, further promote any criminal offense which would be reasonably likely to cause death, bodily injury, or stalking, and then recognize the exclusion for law enforcement and electeds. It was, I guess it surprised me, because I would imagine there are people in this body and also who know law enforcement officers who have had threats of bodily injury, of death, of stalking, and I know I've experienced some of those things. And when I look at those exclusions for electeds, when we're out there all the time, to have somebody release our personal information and that's okay, I just can't support this, whether it's ours or law enforcement.
Thank you. Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. And I fully agree with my colleague from Senate District 15 that this doesn't go far enough to protect people who deserve it. But I do believe it takes a step forward in protecting those who deserve it. And while it doesn't capture everyone I would like to protect, I think the intent is moving us in the correct direction. And just because it doesn't go as far as I would like, doesn't mean that I would vote against it. So I'll be supporting the bill today and hoping that in future years we can move further down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted this body to be aware that we did address these questions in the Judiciary Committee hearing, and we did have legal weigh in. And it was legal's interpretation that the bill does not implicitly or explicitly allow the doxing of anybody, be they an elected public official, a peace officer, or another public officer. Indeed, the bill does have some differing language for members of the general public, as opposed to those of us who have chosen to be elected and opened ourselves up to some additional levels of scrutiny and are expected to be made available to our constituents. But this bill does not in any way, shape, or fashion allow for the publication of personal identifying information of police officers or peace officers, and in fact, they're also protected under other parts of the Nevada revised statutes. Moreover, the bill does not exclude public officers, and we did make that change specifically to ensure that anybody who is working in our government and has agreed to become a public servant but has not signed up for everything that being elected entails is protected by this bill. So it really does provide protections for everybody, and for elected officials it provides some protections as well. They're not as strong as they are for other members of the community because we put ourselves in these positions. So I think that this bill has been expertly crafted to cover the situations that we want to cover and not to cover the situations that we don't. And those are some of the exceptions that you see in there. Things like allowing for the publication of a photograph that might have a peace officer or a public officer in it, which is different from publishing a photograph of your neighbor or somebody who has not signed up to be in the public eye. And so for that reason, I am in very strong support of this bill, and I hope that my colleagues will join me in voting yes.
Thank you. Senator Ornschel.
Thank you, President. And just in response to my friends from Henderson, Reno, Douglas County, and Reno, I believe that Assembly Bill 296 supplements existing remedies available at common law, but does not supplant them. So I think that it will be certainly a great aid if a person is attacked through doxing, but it's not going to replace current civil actions for harassment, defamation that would already be available. But I think that this will help, and I think that this technological age we're in now with the internet and cyber stalking, cyber bullying, all these things that are happening now, a bill like this, a statute like this is needed. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 296?
No.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, okay. All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 296 is 15 in favor, 6 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 298, introduced by Assemblyman Flores, revises provisions relating to non-commercial vehicle licenses. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 10, subsection 3, end of bill.
Thank you. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 298 sets forth provisions that govern a consumer vehicle lease. The measure provides that default on the part of the lessee in a consumer vehicle lease is only enforceable under certain conditions. A lessor who is a dealer must use a lease agreement for a consumer vehicle lease or used vehicle and provide certain requirements and contains disclosures, notices, and provisions. In addition, the bill sets forth certain requirements for a retail consumer vehicle lease that are similar to certain requirements for retail installment contracts. The term open-end vehicle lease is defined to establish that the lessee's obligation upon termination or expiration of the lease is based on the difference between the residual value of the leased vehicle and the realized value. A violation of the provisions of this bill constitutes a deceptive trade practice, and a lessee and certain other persons are authorized to bring civil action against a dealer for such violation. The bill is effective on October 1, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 298?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 298 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 301, introduced by Assemblyman Miller, etc., revises provisions governing motor vehicles. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 6, subsection 3, end of bill.
Thank you. Senator Harris, remarks from the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 301 requires tow car operators to immediately release a vehicle to its owner at no charge if the vehicle is towed from a residential complex for a lack of registration and the owner provides evidence of registration that precedes the tow. The Nevada Transportation Authority must implement a hardship tariff program that will allow owners of vehicles towed for lack of registration to pay reduced tariff rates to recover their vehicles if they are unable to provide proof of registration that precedes the tow, and if for reasons outside their control, they cannot pay the normal charges. The NTA must also adopt regulations establishing a range of tariffs and what qualifies as a reason outside of the control of the owner. The measure also provides that tow operators shall not charge any fee for a vehicle towed at the request of someone other than the vehicle owner or law enforcement until at least 48 hours after the vehicle's arrival at the storage facility. Assembly Bill 301 prohibits the owner of a residential complex or the unit's owner association of a common interest community from requesting the tow of a vehicle based solely on an expired registration. The measure also exempts owners of a residential complex and unit owners associations from being guilty of a misdemeanor if they have more than 2 unregistered vehicles on their property. Finally, the measure adds persons employed by a local government to enforce codes or ordinances to the list of persons not subject to the restrictions on the towing of a vehicle by a person other than the owner.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 301?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 301 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 302, introduced by Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, etc., authorizing Nevada Commission on Minority Affairs to request drafting of not more than 2 legislative measures for each regular session of the legislature. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 3, under bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 302 authorizes the Nevada Commission on Minority Affairs of the Department of Business and Industry to request the drafting up of 2 legislative measures for each regular session of the legislature that relate to matters within its scope of authority. Bill is effective October 1, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 302?
No.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 302 is 19 in favor, 2 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 304, introduced by Assemblyman Fryer, and revises provisions governing peace officers. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Senator Dondero Loop, remarks from the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 304 requires the Peace Officers Standard and Training Commission to expand its regulations requiring all peace officers to annually complete not less than 12 hours of continuing education to address crisis intervention as part of topics related to mental health. This bill is effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting any regulations and performing any preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1st, 2022 for all other purposes.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 304?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 304 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 307, introduced by Assemblywoman Martinez, revises provisions governing employment practices. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 307 requires the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation to prepare one or more notices concerning job training or employment programs conducted by the department and to provide the notices to the Labor Commissioner. The Labor Commissioner must make each such notice available to each employer in private employment in the state and require each employer to post and maintain each notice in a conspicuous location at the workplace effective October 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 307?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 307 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 316, introduced by Assemblyman O'Neill, et cetera, and Senators Buck and Settlemyre, revises the provisions relating to veterans' benefits. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 6, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Assembly Bill 316 makes the following requirements concerning veterans' benefits with certain exceptions. Any person who advertises or promotes any event or other public gathering relating to benefits or entitlements for veterans must disclose certain information, including that the event is not associated with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs or the Department of Veterans Services, and that the veteran may qualify for benefits other than those discussed at the event. Any person who advertises or promotes services to represent or assist veterans in matters relating to benefits or entitlements must disclose certain information regarding compensation and the availability of free services, and any person who provides services to obtain veterans' benefits in exchange for compensation must provide a written disclosure before entering into an agreement with a client for the provision of those services. Finally, the measure authorizes the Attorney General to collect a civil penalty up to $10,000 for each violation of the provisions of this measure. The bill specifies that such a violation constitutes consumer fraud, and a victim is entitled to bring a civil action.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 316?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 316 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 318, introduced by Assemblywoman Marzola, revises provision relating to estates. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 47, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 318 revises various provisions relating to trusts and estates, including authorizing a principal or person granted authority to act for a principal under a power of attorney to obtain declaratory relief under the power of attorney, exempting certain fiduciaries who take temporary possession or title to residential property solely to facilitate the sale of the property from providing a seller's disclosure form, revising provisions governing electronic wills, revising the acts of personal representatives and their powers and duties, authorizing a trustee to reimburse a settlor for the payment of tax on trust income or principal, providing that a trust is irrevocable unless a right to revoke the trust is expressly reserved by the settlor under the terms of the trust instrument, revising provisions relating to the nomination of a guardian, and requiring that public administrators or similar persons be given certain information relating to a decedent and access to the safe deposit box of a decedent in certain circumstances. And this bill is effective on October 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 318?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 318 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 320, introduced by Senator Leavitt and Senator Hardy, revises provisions governing the operation of large all-terrain vehicles on certain streets and highways. People state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 3, and a bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 320 authorizes the operation of a large all-terrain vehicle on a portion of a highway designated as a main county road or on a street within a city whose population is less than 25,000 if, 1, the large ATV has the equipment required for operation on a highway, 2, the large ATV is registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles as a motor vehicle intended for operation on a highway, and 3, the governing body of the city or county having jurisdiction over the street or highway enacts an ordinance or resolution authorizing the operation of a large ATVs on any portion of the street or highway. And on a personal note, this is the most important bill we are going to hear all day. So I would urge the whole body to make sure you vote yes. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 320?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 320 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 325, introduced by Assemblywoman Kasama and et cetera, Senators Buckman, Siggers, Gantzer, revises provisions relating to recording of documents. People state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 7, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021, end of bill.
Thank you. Senator Hansen. Remarks from the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 325 authorizes the submission of a certified paper copy of an electronic document for recording to a county recorder who is elected to receive and record electronic documents. The bill also prescribes a certificate sufficient for certifying that a paper copy is a true and correct copy of an electronic document. Bill is effective on July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 325? Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 325?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 325 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 326, introduced by Senator Roberts, revises provisions governing cannabis. People state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 3 of this act becomes effective July 1, 2021, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 326 makes various changes related to cannabis. It authorizes the district attorney or city attorney to bring civil action against a person who engages in certain activities related to cannabis without the required license or registration card issued by the Cannabis Compliance Board. The bill prohibits a person from acting as a receiver for a cannabis establishment subject to a receivership unless the person has been issued a cannabis establishment agent registration card for cannabis receivers and set forth in certain requirements for obtaining the card. The bill provides that holding cannabis establishment agent registration card is revocable privilege, and such card may not be used if any proposed owners, officers, or board members have previously had this type of card revoked. The board must adopt regulations prescribing procedures and requirements by which the court-appointed receiver who has an appropriate cannabis establishment agent registration card may take possession of, manage the operations of, and take any other action authorized by the court with respect to a cannabis establishment. The board may adopt regulations to give priority to a transfer of license to another party who is qualified to hold such a license if the transfer is subject to a receivership involved in recapitalization or party to a court proceeding involving financial distress. Additionally, this bill requires that all advertising by cannabis establishments contain the name of the cannabis establishment and the adult use cannabis establishment license number or other unique identifier, or the medical cannabis establishment license number or other unique identifiers of the cannabis establishment. If a cannabis establishment holds more than one license, it may use one of any of these license numbers or unique identifiers to satisfy this requirement. And my colleague from Senate District 21 will have to abstain from this vote, but I'll let him say that. The bill is effective on July 1, 2021.
Thank you, Senator Orenshaw. Is that true?
Madam President, may I make a disclosure?
You may.
There was once a man from Las Vegas who married a woman now famous. She sits on the board that polices the hordes of cannabis stores and their patrons. Since that man from Las Vegas is me, due to our standing Rule 23, I must abstain from this vote. Though my disclosure is rote, I tried to be brief, as you see, but this is all due to Rule 23. President, I'd like to thank my very talented colleagues from Senate District 8 and Senate District 9, who I did not realize till today that they are poets, in addition to lawmakers.
Thank you, Senator Orenshaw, and the senators from District 8 and 9. Senator Hansen.
Probably shouldn't say anything after such a nice thing. And by the way, does everybody know his wife is going to have a baby? I didn't know that, so I found out today. She is 8 months along. So the lady that was in the poem is also going to be a mother soon, so congratulations. Bring it back, unfortunately, to a question. I totally bring it back to marijuana. Sorry, as usual, Ira is the unwelcome guy in the room. But
here we are.
I support the bill, first of all. I want everybody to vote for it. But I just thought it was interesting in the testimony, because we all, recently passed this, the voters in the state. One of the main arguments was it would eliminate or greatly reduce the illegal trade in cannabis, in marijuana. Yet the testimony in the hearing indicates that if anything, it's expanded. And when I talked to Metro about it, they believe there's more illegal marijuana on the streets now than prior to the passage of the bill. So, our hope was to capture a market that everybody smokes the stuff, apparently, and uses it, and we were trying to capture it for tax purposes. But it is kind of interesting, in spite of our best efforts, that black market's actually expanded in the state, and we have more of it that's not being taxed than actually may be being taxed, according to testimony on that bill. So anyway, I urge my colleagues to support AB 326, but at some point we may want to revisit the whole marijuana and tax issue. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Pickard, do you vote yes or no on Assembly Bill number 326?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 326 is 20 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstain. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number
Madam
320.
President? Yes, Senator Cannizzaro?
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that the Senate stand in recess until the call of the chair.
Oh, gosh, so slow. All right, we're in recess. Oh, no. How many are in favor? Yay? Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. We're going back in for just 1 second. Please hold. The following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Assembly Bills number 45, 139, 237, 251, 253, 254, 258, 261, 277, 278, 284, 286, 290, 296, 298, 301, 302, 304, 307, 316, 318, 320, 325, 326. Once these bills have been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further action. Thank you. And the Secretary needs to make one statement.
There are some bills on there that do passes and they will be retained by.
There are some bills on here that were due passes and they shall be retained by the Senate. Thank you.